Dominica represented at Broadcasters Training Workshop on Regional Integration and the CARICOM Single Market and Economy. The nature island of Dominica will be featured as a tourist destination by the UK's largest newspaper, and the local ophthalmology department receives $40,000 in supplies from Vosh. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to another edition of National Focus. I'm your presenter, Tarnia Green.
And I'm Kimani. Stay with us for details of the headline stories and others right after this.
Dominica is blessed with an abundance of water, but getting it to your home is an expensive venture. You have a responsibility to conserve water, to use it wisely. Remember the old adage, you never miss the water till the well runs dry. Think water, think life.
Welcome back. Time now for the details of the news. Approximately 30 Caribbean community CARICOM broadcasters participated in a workshop on regional integration and the CARICOM Single Market and Economy in Antigua and Barbuda on Thursday and Friday of last week. The activity was organized by the CARICOM Secretariat with funding from the 10th European Development Fund, EDF, and took place at the Jolly Beach Resort and Spa. The broadcasters from across the region, including Dominica, were exposed to topics such as the free movement of skills of persons, the Caribbean Court of Justice and its importance to the regional integration movement, and nationals doing business within the CSME. Presentations at the workshop came from representatives of the CARICOM Secretariat, the University of the West Indies, the Caribbean Broadcasting Union, the Caribbean Court of Justice, the Association of Caribbean Media Workers, and the public and private sector in Antigua and Barbuda. There were also presentations for the development of broadcast skills in delivering and disseminating information on trade and regional integration. The event was a continuation of public education and sector-specific training activities carried out by the Secretariat. This was the 5th Broadcasters Training Workshop on Regional Integration and the CSME, facilitated by the Secretariat in collaboration with regional bodies. Joining us on the set now to discuss more about the workshop is Dominica's representative at that meeting, the Senior Information Officer of the Government Information Service, Mr. Mervyn Paul. Mr. Paul, 2 days of interesting discourse. We're talking about regional integration and the CARICOM Single Market and Economy. Take us back to that 2-day meeting.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Tanya. Thank you for having me. First of all, as you know, there is renewed emphasis on the whole integration process taking place in CARICOM, leading towards ultimately the CSME. And the CARICOM unit has always felt that the media has a very integral role to play in that regard. And so therefore, under the watchful eyes and direction of Salas Hamilton, who is the public relations specialist at CARICOM, broadcasters from the region, particularly those responsible for the management of various media houses, both private and government-owned, were brought together in Antigua for 2 days. At that meeting, of course, at the opening ceremony, there was an address by the Honorable Baldwin Spencer, the Prime Minister of Antigua, who himself is known as an integrationist and has been very instrumental in pushing the agenda. A number of interesting people addressed the function. There was, of course, an address by Mr. Ivo Carrill, who's the program manager at CARICOM, and he had a lot to say about the process going forward. They also identified some of the limitations, and of course, you also had Clive Bacchus of the ACM, who is the president of the Association of Caribbean Media Workers, and there was also Gary Allen, who is currently the vice president of the Caribbean Broadcasting Union. So there were a number of presentations by these people, basically focusing on what it is the media can do to push the whole integration process, or the education of the integration process within the CSME.
Clearly, from what you're saying, the media has a very important role in disseminating information. Now, we've been hearing about regional integration, we've been hearing about CARICOM single market economy for the past few years. What are we doing? Are we being effective in our transmission of information?
Well, if I'm to speak from Dominica's standpoint, I know from the government information standpoint, we've been doing a lot on our own, initiating discussions at different levels. And of course, when we have CARICOM officials, both local and visiting, we've also taken the opportunity to speak to them with a view of dissemination of information. In fact, just last year we had a couple judges from the CCJ who were themselves were speaking, and fortunately we had Judge Nelson, who was also part of the discussion in Antigua. So one wants to think that there's been a lot of information, but with the increasing challenges, the job of the media is also becoming even more, because you have to stay ahead and abreast with all the changes taking place and all the challenges, and you have to be knowledgeable on what are the issues going forward. So I want to respond by saying that we have been doing well, but there is a lot more to be done.
On a local level, though, what sort of initiatives can you bring forward to the table as we advance in this dissemination of information?
One thing, and first and foremost, though, is the fact that the media has to be educated. There are a lot of issues about CARICOM that I think the media is still not familiar with. We don't have a grip on it. And I think one of the things I'm looking forward to do is probably have some sort of discussion among media persons, particularly those who are at the helm, where we need to understand and accept the fact that we need to create a greater awareness in our newsrooms of the issues as it relates to CSMA. Because of course, when people write news, if they're not familiar, the issues will be bandied about, but they will not be able to speak to it. And so I think because we play a leading role, and I say we meaning the media, play a leading role, we have to first of all appreciate what are the issues as it relates to CSM before we can go out there and disseminate the information. So I think that in itself is one of the first moves, as well as continued and increased discussions at different levels. I do not think it is enough to sit in the studio and initiate a discussion. I think more than ever before we need to identify resource persons and go to the communities, because the issues as it relates to CSME are those that will affect the average man. I think we need to take the discussion to them.
But are we singing the same song as a region?
Well, I want to think so. I want to think that we are all saying the same thing. As to our level of movement forward, that may be questionable. As to how many media houses within the region are really taking the initiative to do it, that may be questionable. But I get the sense that we are all aware as a region, as GISs and other media houses, print and electronic, that we have to do more. The initiative is something else. Taking the initiative, because those things require funding, and you know the issues faced with all economies in the region today. But I think if CSME is to succeed and to go forward and benefit the people for what it was meant, the media has a very pivotal role to play, and more so the government media, because CSME is a process driven by the governments. And so I think it is very, very important for that aspect of it to be looked at even a greater level.
Senior Information Officer at the Government Information Service, Mervyn Paul, talking about a two-day workshop which took place last week in Antigua, discussing regional integration and the CARICOM single market and economy.
In more news, the VOSH team from the Michigan chapter has donated $40,000 worth of eye drops to the Ministry of Health Ophthalmology Department last Wednesday. Volunteer Optometric Services to Humanity VOSH's mission has been bringing optometric services to the less fortunate in Dominica. This year marks the 20th anniversary of support to Dominica.
In this bag alone, approximately $40,000 worth of eye drops to continue this process for Dr. Hazel through the years. Over the years, it's been nearly 20 years worth of these donations, approximately over $1 million worth of eye drops.
Dr. Hazel Ricketts thanked VOSH for their sterling contribution to eye care in Dominica.
I must say thank you for the assistance you all have provided to the people in Dominica. Also, I would like to say thank you for the assistance that your team has provided to the ophthalmology department over the years. This assistance has taken the shape many forms. One, equipment 2 referring patients, 3 in eye drops. And I always try to pace my eye drops to wait until your next visit, especially the eye drops that we don't stock here. And I will let you know that this year we saved the eyesight of 2 farmers with fungal eye infections. And those of you who work in eyes know fungal eye infections are very serious, and a number of times the patients lose their eyes.
Minister for Health, Honorable Julius Timothy, expressed a heartfelt thanks to the VOSH missions team and explained how VOSH has been of a significant impact to Dominicans.
We appreciate you so much that in my last year's contribution to budget, we did make mention of your VOSH team visit to Dominica. So we have allowed the Dominican people to know of your importance to us in Dominica.
The minister further spoke of the Rotary Club of Dominica's efforts to bring relief to the people of Dominica. He stated that government and the Ministry of Health are happy with the Rotary Club of Dominica's interventions.
The government is also very, very appreciative of you. One, with your VOSH mission, the hearing mission, and in particular your help with the diabetes in Dominica, to the extent just recently I was in Australia and we did make mention of the Rotary Club's involvement in the diabetic feet care in Dominica.
In other news, the UK's largest newspaper, The Telegraph, will feature the nature island Dominica as a tourist destination on its website. A trio of travel videographers from The Telegraph arrived on the island late last week to capture footage of the island and to experience the variety of activities being offered to tourists. GIS News spoke with Andy Mackenzie on Monday morning, shortly before the group left for an island tour. This videographer and his 2 colleagues have traveled all over the world, seeking out destinations that will inspire the Telegraph's adventurous readers to explore someplace different.
We're here in Dominica to film some travel documentaries for the Telegraph in London. This is my second time I've been here. I went and did St Kitts and Nevis before, and that was a couple of years ago. We've just travelled from Costa Rica before here, and then before that was Mexico.
Since arriving on the island, the trio has been able to find adventure at every turn.
We've been to Champagne, snorkeling. We went and saw that yesterday. We've been to the Wacky Tubes. We've been out on the boats to see dolphins and whales, and where else have we been? We've been seen some high vantage points. I've had a good night out, and that was good. Yeah, that was an experience. That was good fun. That's something that I'll remember for a long time. But it's and we're just spending the day really just getting all panoramic shots and views of the island today before we fly home.
Mackenzie feels that Dominica offers a unique experience to tourists, which will no doubt appeal to the paper's readership.
I think especially the Telegraph's readership would love to see what you've got here, because it's so different from what people think is the Caribbean dream with the white sands and the palm beaches and lying on the beach all for 2 weeks. So it's a chance for our readers and viewers are very into their nature and to like exploring things and just being a little bit more adventurous with what they can see, and I think this would offer everything that it needs. Dominica is different from, say, Mexico where we went, because that's very commercialised. They've had a lot of big hotels there for a long time, so there's very small areas which they've kept. They've kept them as they should be, and then as soon as you get outside the village, then you have all the big 5-star hotels right the way down the road, and there are like 9,000 people in each hotel. And then Costa Rica was very different. That was rainforest with water and like going up through waterways, and that was very remote. That was like 3 planes and a little sea transfer on up into a canal to a lodge. But then I've been to St Kitts and Nevis, and it has a similar feel, but you have to go a little bit further inland for it. You have to go away from the ports to find sort of the real St Kitts. On the port and the harbour is very commercialised, very built up. But here you literally can step straight off of a cruise ship, and you can be in a real town where people are buying their fruit and veg and like drinking and chatting and having coffees right on the harbour, which I haven't seen before in the islands that I've seen.
He says Dominica was selected for its uniqueness as it relates to its unspoilt greenery. As for his personal feelings about the island, Mackenzie says he definitely intends to return on his own time. He feels a few days is hardly enough to enjoy the Dominica experience.
To me, I really love this island. It sort of captures you as soon as you arrive. It's the people. As soon as you chat to them, everyone will, if you don't know where to go or you're not too sure what's around the corner or how you need to get to a building, you just go into a shop and then they're outside and they shout across the road to somebody else, and then they come over and like almost taking you to where you need to go to. So I think it's people being really friendly. Everyone's got a lovely smile. Obviously the weather is not like it is in London. I think it's like 2 degrees and possibly snowing. So for me, this is a culture shock, but a nice one. It's an island that's got lovely nature, and you can sort of spend the day up in the rainforest or hiking, and then in the afternoon you can be down searching for dolphins and whales on speedboats. And then if you want to go off and you want to go down a tube in on the rivers, you can spend time with the tourists. I need lots of extra days here, but sadly I don't have any extra days. I have to go home.
The Telegraph newspaper is the largest publication in the United Kingdom, producing 800,000 copies of the 80-page paper daily. The paper is 150 years old. The new online version, telegraph.co.uk, is second only to bbc.co.uk, with 26 million readers every day. The documentary featuring Dominica is expected to be published online by mid-February on telegraph.co.uk.
Honorable Ian Douglas has emphasized the plan of the Ministry of Education to introduce tourism as a subject throughout the education system. The tourism minister was speaking at the opening ceremony of a workshop on marketing techniques for small hotels last Thursday. Honorable Douglas stressed the survival of the tourism industry in Dominica depends on the part played by the society as a whole. He believes that introducing tourism as a subject from primary school level will result in a new breed of well-grounded individuals in the tourism industry.
The plan is to take tourism not only into the Dominica State College, but into our secondary schools and into our primary schools. So by the time the student gets to the Dominica State College, he has a grounding and a foundation on the issues that affect and concern us in the tourism industry. The education system needs to facilitate the training of personnel and to ensure that a new and fresh cadre of employable persons are available to the industry when needed, and to offer refresher courses or on-the-job training to those who are already employed in the industry.
Meanwhile, General Manager of Aid Bank, Julius Corbett, extended an invitation to small hoteliers to bring forward their new plans and initiatives to the Aid Bank for funding. He indicated that the bank has funds set aside to assist them and encouraged that they use the knowledge gained from the workshop to generate new ideas.
The Aid Bank extends an invitation to all of you present here to come to us with any programs that you think you're going to need for funding. We can help you with your funding. We've got funds set aside to help you, particularly marketing. So when you conclude your training program here today and you take it back to your management and the decision makers, be aware that we at 8 Bank are willing and are ready to extend financial support to you.
The workshop, especially conducted for small hoteliers, will be conducted every Thursday and Saturday at the Fortune Hotel for the next 3 weeks.
And while the Ministry of Health is confirming the presence of the Coxsackie virus in Dominica, the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. David Johnson, is reporting a decline in the number of reported cases. At a press conference held last Friday, Dr. Johnson informed that laboratory confirmation of Coxsackie was concluded by the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA.
I can confirm, in fact, also, just yesterday we have received from our reference lab in Trinidad, CARPHA, the Caribbean Public Health Agency, the confirmation of Coxsackie circulating in Dominica. Remember when I spoke to you earlier that we had clinical suspicion, but we always want to have laboratory confirmation, and I can confirm at least that we had, from some of the samples that we sent, 2 came back as positive for Coxsackie virus.
The disease has been present on island since December 1st, 2013. Since then, Dr. Johnson says there has been 83 clinical cases reported. Coxsackie disease is a hand and foot disease which commonly affects children aged 5 or under. In most cases, the infection causes only mild symptoms which last between 7 and 10 days. These symptoms include fever and painful blisters in the mouth, on the palms and fingers, or on the soles of the feet. There can also be blisters in the throat or on or above the tonsils. According to Dr. Johnson, there has been no hospital admissions or deaths reported as a result of the virus. He accredits proper management of viruses on the island to the efficiency of the Ministry of Health.
We in the Ministry of Health, we are very proactive. Whatever information that we have that is of public importance, we share it with the media and we put out the information fast and furious. The information is not only for the Ministry of Health, but if I have the information, the public does not have the information, we believe that there will not be this kind of responsible public response to help us to mitigate the effects of any outbreaks or any disease that we have. And that's how we operate in the Ministry of Health.
Last Friday, it was also reported that the first case of chikungunya was confirmed on Dominica. However, the Ministry of Health stressed there is no need for alarm. The public is advised to remain vigilant and do all possible to rid their surroundings of the Aedes aegypti mosquito. And before we end, we have one announcement. The Ministry of Public Works, Energy and Ports would like to inform residents of Loda and environs of the continuation of its public sensitization program, and will hold a community meeting on Thursday, January 23rd, 2014 at 6:30 p.m. at the Loda Primary School. The commencement of drilling of the production well and other matters pertaining to the geothermal project will be discussed. All are invited to attend and to be on time. And that's it for the English segment of the news. McPherson St. Luce is up next with the Creole highlights.
Allô tout le monde, bienvenue à cette nouvelle en créole. Non moins, c'est McPherson St. Luce. Premièrement, Premier ministre Honorable Roosevelt Skerritt, quand il a ces Dominicains essayé pilote pays, faut qu'on ait bien fort parole qui sortit de Thompson Fontaine, candidat UWP. Fontaine fait vie parole en l'Amérique, qui jeunesse Dominique a dans un certain village, mande yo pour fusil tuer monde si l'on mauvaise situation qui a existé en Dominique. Quand même Premier ministre Skerritt fait parole qui vie parole Thompson Fontaine, quand montre bien clair ça UWP qu'a représenté, et puis il a sectionné gamme Fontaine qu'a présenté quoi comme un monde qui s'atteint aux positions en pays là. Premier ministre Skerritt dit parole Fontaine c'est pas réflexion ça qui a vraiment fait en Dominique. Il dit c'est pas la première fois que UWP a fait vieille parole qui bien dangereux pour l'image à pays là. Chef UWP check tant qui passe Lennox Linton, regardez moun qui a bénéficié en bas sur le programme comme moun qui enragé. Bagay gouvernement Dominique qu'a coordonné bien fort. À la nouvelle, Discover Dominic Authority a tenu en consultation des jours. On a regardé en détail l'état industrie touriste Dominique. plusieurs monde qui engagé en industrie là qui entre des consultations là qui prend place en hôtel Garaway en Roseau. Cérémonie pour te ouvrir consultation là prend place bon matin là où la présentation sortie du chef Didier Colin Piper qui bat un overview consultation là et puis ministre touriste honorable Ian Douglas qui délivre une adresse situation industrielle. Monsieur Benoit Badwell, c'est chairman Discover Dominica Authority.
Nous voulons garder ça nous fait en tourisme, ministère du tourisme là, parce que Discover Dominique, nous avons un plan. Et plan ça c'est pour 2015, nous voulons 90 000 personnes viennent Dominique. So nous avons regardé à présent l'année avec qui challenge comme que nous ni avec nous avons mené toutes ces gens-là l'hôtel avec différents secteurs Dominique pour nous discuter l'année à présent en affaires business tourisme.
Badwell mentionné action pour avancer l'industrie touriste Dominique. En autre nouvelle, on papier journal l'Angleterre Daily Telegraph qui fait un document assez Dominique à ses websites ailleurs. Une délégation officielle vidéo arrivée en pays la semaine passée. On a eu aller tout Dominique pour vidéo au pays là et puis pour expérimenter diverses activités que Dominique a offert pour touristes. Sinon, officier délégation là Andy Mackenzie, il a expecté pour mettre publication de voix à une manière influencer les gens qui regardent le website ailleurs, choisir Dominique comme une destination différente pour touristes visiter. Quand même si l'on M. Mackenzie, il a expérimenté la nature tout où là il allé. Et de Dominique a offert une expérience bien unique, bagaille qui plus de monde qui lit le journal ailleurs pendant qu'il fait publication Dominique. Mackenzie dit qu'il choisit Dominique parce que le pays a bien fait, ça a créé un spoiled greenery. Documentaire là qu'a expecté pour sortir par mi-mois prochain online à ce Telegraph co.dot.uk. Finalement, ça fait où la Dominique record premier case chikungunya destination là par un ouest. Parole ça là sorti au chef officier santé environ Anthony Scotland qu'on nouvelle fin circulation en Dominique semaine passée. En effet cela, maladie là pas signé Scotland a avisé le public la bon standard santé en péché maladie ça la simé.
Environment ministre de ka di moun a ko yoni pour garder woyo prévenir dengue bila wakayo couvert jomzu oni jom wakayo ki ka tebeglo ça brid mangwe oni be chenli couvert le ou pas ka servi oni pour mettre zodi ou dehors pour solid waste collect les yo di ou jou la yo ka passer pour collect zodi là si on y vieille voiture vieille derrière véhicule nous tuer environnement ou verra ko vieille fridge vieille stove nous parler ça à Dominique nous ka di monde qui ka venir Dominique après ici Dominique c'est en place ça venir il ça venir enjoy ko yo Dominique ça c'est pas nous dit nous une maladie chikungunya ça pas dire ou pas à vie Dominique eh bien amuser ko so nous ka mettre système en place nous mettre bagaille à weg pour pêcher d'ici ça profiter.
Messieurs mesdames, ça c'est tout pour nouvelles en créole pour à présent. Non moi c'est McPherson Luce. Au revoir.
Walk but stay safe. Tips for pedestrians. That's coming up next on today's tip of the day.
Together we build, together we strive. We see it all on your government information service, Channel 7. This is the Government Information Service, bringing you all that you need to know about all that's happening in your country's development. GIS, you and your channel.
Walking is a great way to get exercise, but it's important to follow certain safety rules to protect yourself from vehicles and other hazards. Cross streets at designated crosswalks.
Be careful at intersections where drivers might fail to yield the right of way to pedestrians while turning. If you walk at night, carry a flashlight and wear reflective clothing. A sidewalk is the safest place to walk. If you have to walk on the road, walk facing traffic. And that's all for this edition of National Focus. We always welcome your suggestions and comments. Drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm or visit our website news.gov.dm.
Friend us on our Facebook page and be sure to like our GIS Dominica fan page. You can also catch up on past National Focus newscasts on our GIS Dominica YouTube channel. On behalf of the entire news production team, I'm your presenter, Tarnia Green.
And I'm Kimani. Thank you so much for watching.